I'm here. What would you like to know?
Okay, what I would like to know is, how did you and Tom get together, and how did you meet, and how did you become a part of Noddy Puncture?
Yeah, okay. Well, Tom and I go back to about 1993, 94. And at that time, I was in an ELP Tribute Band, a UK one called Works 3. And Tom was in Noddy's Puncture, or there was Noddy's Puncture, but it wasn't exclusively an ELP Tribute Band, and I'm sure Tom will talk more about that later. But he used to come down to watch our gigs, and I used to go and see his gigs. So we kind of kept in contact through the 90s. We both played at the ELP convention in 95, the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
And
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, we go back a long way, and then jump forward to 2010. In fact, High Voltage, which is 10 years ago tomorrow. Can you believe that? But anyway, I was chatting to Tom, and we were just chatting about Noddy's Puncture, and I just said to him, look, you know, if at any time in the future you need a help with a drummer, I'd be more than happy to look at that. And then I got the call late 2015, I think it was. Can you help me out with some rehearsals? And we can do online rehearsals, even though we're 400 miles apart. So we got together on the internet and started working together. And then, yeah, that's how I joined Noddy's Puncture. And the first gig was December 2016 in Rochdale.
Wow.
And
wow.
And Ed was already in the band, but again, he'll talk about how he was involved. But we've never looked back, really. And it's been a journey, a really good journey.
Now, Ed, how did you become involved with Noddy's Puncture, and how did you hear about Noddy's Puncture, and then become an actual member?
Actual member, yeah. Well, I was trawling on YouTube for just some entertainment, basically, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer to listen to, and come across a video of Noddy's Puncture playing a track, and I thought it was really, really good. Didn't expect that sort of quality from a tribute band, and
sure.
sort of it raised my curiosity. So I just followed them through and went to their website and noticed that their bass player had left them. And this was 2011. And so I sent an email saying that your bass player's left you. I'm interested in doing something. I'm a guitar vocalist, and interested in doing it. So we arranged a meeting. I went down to Tom's place, 200 miles away, and we met in his basement and had all of the stuff set up like you see on the picture there. And he played stuff from Tarkus and Pictures Exhibition, and I was hearing.
I didn't have this then yet, though, Ed. It was a mini Moog here.
It was mini Moog. Yeah. It's just the small stuff. But he played Tarkus. He played Pictures Exhibition. Real Hammond. That's what really got me. It was real Hammond sounds I was listening to, and it was absolutely spot on. Everything was just so good. The quality of the musicianship I was hearing was just excellent. So that's how we sort of we slowly got into it, and I went away and I said that I have to learn all the bass parts. I'm a guitar player, so learned some of the stuff that we arranged to get together initially, and then took it from there. It sounded quite good, just the two of us. Then we had a drummer at the time, and we started to come together. It's difficult to arrange rehearsals and to the extent that you need to get this stuff together. So we started to look at online methods, and we managed to do e-jamming eventually, which was quite a learning curve and difficult, but we got over that. And learning online with delays in our ears and everything, we managed to learn Pictures Exhibition, we managed to Tarkus, we managed to learn some of the First Impression. So that's quite a good achievement for something that was not too easy to do online. So
I agree with that.
That's to where we are now. And here we are.
And here we are. Now we have with us Tom. Tom, are you the founder of Noddy's Puncture? How did Noddy's Puncture become Noddy's Puncture with Frank and with Ted?
I am the founder, yes. You can hear me all right? Yeah.
We can. Yes, I can hear you. You can hear you just fine, I think.
Good-o. Yeah, I was in a band. We're quite well known around here. We're doing original stuff. It was called Shanghai, and I was allowed an Emerson, Lake and Palmer number. I used to do a medley of fanfare and blues variation, and we did other covers. You know, the guys in the band were like Deep Purple fans, and you know, and we did some original stuff. In fact, we went in studio two or three times, yeah, and then that split. And at the time, the guy who was singing, the last singer, when the split happened, he was also a drummer. He was always, I remembered him getting onto we used to practice in this basement. And he always used to, when we had a tea break, he used to get on the drum kit, and he was quite a good drummer. So I just asked him, I said, I fancy getting sort of an ELP, do more ELP. Would you fancy sort of playing along? And he said, okay. But he wasn't an ELP fan. That was the problem. And, you know, you'd play rondo, and it wasn't the, you know, the dung 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 dung, the train thing. It was more like a bum chick, you know. So it was like, you know, dead, you know, playing to it was a bit strange, but we got it going. And he actually was singing as well. He had a headset mic. He was a good singer, so he used to sing at the drums. But then we got a bassist in, and they told me, we'll do this if we can do some numbers we like. So we want to do Can't Get Enough of Your Love. Is it who was that by? Bad
Company.
Yeah, Free, Wishing Well, Lenny Kravitz, You're Gonna Go My Way, which was quite good actually, because I could get guitar sounds on my keyboards, you know, and do stuff. And we did Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, Beethoven's Ninth.
Did Frankenstein, didn't you?
Frankenstein, Edgar Winter, yeah. So it was a mishmash, but there's quite a lot of ELP in. So and then that carried on. I did the convention with those guys. It was weird because the bass player was into Duran Duran, and his bass solo in Rondo was that bass solo. Is it out of Rio? No, not Rio. Something else. There's a bass solo anyway. With saxophone over the top, and I learnt that sax line I played it on the Moog. So yeah, and then that split. That ended up. Well, it's basically just long stories, really, but I won't go into details. That ended, and I just decided I needed ELP fans to do it properly. But of course, you're not going to find ELP fans in the same street or the same town, so you have to go further afield. So, and it's gone through a few lineups. You know, ELP fans came and went, and we are here where we are at the moment. So,
and it's a great place to be, I have to say.
You need ELP fans to play this stuff. You know, if you get a good musician and say there's Tarkus and there's Pirates, they might learn it, but it won't sound right. You need someone who's been listening to this stuff since they were like 12, you know.
Yeah.
Tom, you're dead right. You're dead right about that. We are people who listen to this stuff from year one.
It's a great place to be, I have to say.
From when it was first released, and it just logs in your brain, and you know, you have that in your mind. You know the first impression. You know Tarkus, and you can relive it through your brain. And And when it comes to learning it, you know exactly what you're supposed to be trying to do. So someone who's not a fan, it must be so difficult to comprehend how to do it.
Yeah, to get it right. I think it's the little nuances, isn't it, that you pick up through listening to over the years, and different versions from different tours, and you really, it's not that you get into the music, but the music gets into you. And as Tom alluded to there, if you can get other musicians that can play all the notes, but it's trying to get the feel, and we try and recreate the live ELP experience. So we always refer to live versions when we're approaching a new piece, rather than the studio version, because
very nice.
Yeah,
I could jump in there because, for example, like Frank said, the live versions. So we based our Tarkus on the Welcome Back My Friends version because obviously it's got that mega Moog solo in, Moog solo. So you've got to do it. But having said that, some of the organ solos, I like some licks in the studio version. So what I've tried to do is go into the studio version and then put a little bit of a live lick into it and alter it. But in doing so, you think, well, hang on a minute. As I go from one to the other, I'll just put one of my own licks in, something I've made up. So it's a big mishmash, but you tend to go, I like that bit from there, and I like that bit from there. So you get used to it. It sort of becomes the way you do it, you know.
Yeah, it's a little part of you, yourself mixing right in there with what was played by ELP.
Anyway, carry on, Frank, because I interrupted you there.
I think also when we were doing pictures at an exhibition, Tom sort of obviously told me, from the drumming point of view anyway, to refer to the live version from '71, and then he'd phone up and say, "Oh, I listened to this bootleg from 1972 at such and such a venue. There's a bit in there that, and so he then sent me the link, and I've got to listen to the bootleg bit, and then, and so Tom's attention to detail is not just listening to the live versions that you can buy, the normal CD releases, but scours through all the bootlegs, the other little bits that we can add, because their pieces developed over the years, like Tom said about, we played Tarkus from '74 because it developed from the original '71 studio to something that was a completely different animal really in '74, and the same with pictures and other pieces. So we tend to refer to different live recordings, both bootlegs and commercial releases.
And Frank, on that note, talking about pictures, there is something that you do that Carl used to do with his violin bow. And if you wouldn't mind, I think everyone would love to see you demonstrate how he was able to make the sounds that he made with his bow.
Yeah. So I'll just give you the story because I just got a phone call from Tom, and he just said, "Frank, you've got to buy a violin bow." And I said, "What do you mean a violin bow? We're not playing Vivaldi's Four Seasons. We're playing ELP. You've got the wrong guy here." No. You need to listen to the Japanese bootleg from 1932 because, and forgive me, I can't remember. It's not the Hut of Baba Yaga, is it, Tom? It's the what part?
It's it's during the bass bit where it goes wow, wow, wow.
Yeah. So what Carl did, he got a violin. Carl used to play violin before drums. You know that when he was 11, he played violin, and he gets a violin bow and he plays it on a cymbal, and he kind of gets some eerie sounds from it. I'll try and replicate some of them.
Have you put your rosin on?
Yes. I don't know if you can pick this up, but you'll sort of get.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear it.
And when Ed is playing his kind of bass parts, then the violin parts interact with that, and So that wasn't on the original live recording from '71 that you can buy. That was, again, an example of them developing and coming up with new ideas.
You can hear it on lots of bootlegs.
Yeah.
From later on. If you watch our, we did a little collaboration thing, didn't we? Video, and we did pictures, and Frank got his violin bow just in time.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's right.
That's excellent. Excellent. And you know, I think I'm going to take this opportunity to ask Dave to introduce himself, because I'm sure a lot of people are saying, Dave, how are you involved with Noddy's Puncture, and what is it that you do?
Okay, so my sort of background is, right from school I was into ELP, buying all the albums when they came out, playing them until I practically wore out the records, listening to the whole thing. Got into bands playing myself as well, but not in Tom's league at all in playing. But 20 years ago, just before the turn of the century, Tom used to be quite active on a discussion group on the internet called ELP Disc. And from there, I saw about Noddy's Puncture doing gigs. Fortunately, I lived relatively close to Rochdale, and there was a gig up in Littleborough that I went to see.
At the lake?
Yep. Just over 20 years ago. And went in, saw the gear on stage, heard them play, and was totally blown away. Version of Rondo I recognised as the Elegy version, with every scrape and distortion and twang accurate to the record. And it was superb. Went to see him as many times as I possibly could. And then just before Ed joined, I casually mentioned to Tom, if you ever need a pair of hands helping cart all that gear, I'm relatively local, so I'll give you a hand. And then said, so I can find my way around a mixing desk because I've done sound since 1979. And he sort of snatched my hand off. And then I've been involved ever since in one form or another.
And I need the help even more now, don't I?
Yeah, so when it's 2 o'clock in the morning and it's dark and it's raining and we're unloading a van into Tom's garage and
the trailer.
Carrying the stuff down into the cellar, etc., then that's what I owe it to.
But like you say, it saves on gym membership.
It saves on gym membership, and obviously anybody looking at me will realise the vast improvement it's made to my physique. But no, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You hear every note close to. You see how the pieces were put together. There's nothing like watching it being played in front of your very eyes. So I feel in a privileged position because I've always loved the music, and these are a great bunch of guys. Tom, they've all become really good friends. But like I say, Tom I've known like over 20 years now. So that's how I got in.
Yeah, it seems like all of you have had a lot of time, a lot of years together. And that's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
when you're an ELP fan, Frank, when you're an ELP fan, you sort of, it's a love, it's a labour of love, and you want to do the best that you can in the band, and it takes a long time to get it together. It does. You can't join a band and just be in it for 6 months. Not ELP, and that's why
Yeah.
I think ELP fans are like a family as well. There's one guy we became very friendly with, Graham Allen, who comes to all our gigs, and him and I, although I've only known him for about 25 years, because we've been to the same gigs before we knew each other. it almost was as if that we knew each other for a lot longer, because we could talk about gigs that we'd both been to separately, not known that we'd known each other. And I think ELP fans, you don't have to have known an ELP fan for a long time, but you feel that you've known them forever, because you know the music takes you back to when you were younger, and you all have that connection, not just collectively but individually as well.
Sure, absolutely. And you know what? I think at this time, Tom, I'd love to see you demonstrate something.
Oh, are we at that bit now?
That wonderful system, because I know that I am very anxious to hear something from you.
Okay, I've been thinking of demonstration things. I do synthesizer demonstrations. I take this into synth meets, you know. So I do a little bit of demonstrating and do some talking as well. Yeah, quite used to it. So, can you all hear me?
I can.
There we go.
That's the hoedown sound for you. Yeah? Now, the hoedown sound is very, very difficult to achieve. Basically, your oscillators need to be in tune. There's no room for beating. By beating, I mean, if I turn these off, if you've got... Can you hear how it goes static? The movement stops. You need to set each bank up so that the movement stops. Otherwise, it can sound totally out. And there's a sustain. Without the sustain, which you actually turn off during the solo, because you do the middle solo, which isn't that sound. You have to turn that off, but then you need to bring it back in again at the end. Now, you know, there's the bit where it goes. And then he goes into the solo, yeah? So Mo used to play on that sound. If you don't let it re-trigger, you get this. And he used to do that before he went into the solo. I can actually, yeah, I can demonstrate you. What you do is you switch. He had presets, I don't, you see. So I have to turn, I've done my own modifications. I can turn banks off, so I can actually do that glide down. And then turn them off, and I just got the one for the solo, and I turn the thing off, and I go. But then you come back into it, you turn that up again, so it carries on sustaining, and you do this. Now, I've done a little modification here on mine because I don't think Keith had this. I had an idea whereby you can get rid of that on the glide up. It's quite a good effect. You can actually do all sorts of things that I actually don't do live. I should do really, but you stick to the same solo, but you can actually do things like... it's just you can just go wild. And then when you're ready, you're back. So that's the whole damn sound demonstrated. Yeah.
It happens
What else
to
would
be
you
my
like to know?
favorite. Let's see. I could go on and on and on. I'd like to go to Ed. And Ed, would you mind doing a little demonstration on your, you have vocals and you have bass and guitar. And I think people would love to hear a little piece about your sound.
Yeah. The first time I heard Emerson Lake Palmer was at a friend's house who had bought the first album, and I heard the Lucky Man song. And what really killed me was it was just an acoustic song, someone singing along to an acoustic guitar. But at the end, there was this massive wall of sound which I'd never heard before. And I was just so curious as to how it was created and what made that sound. And that sort of fueled my enthusiasm for to take it further and look into their music. But Lucky Man was the first thing that I ever heard that kind of sort of drew me to the music. So just do a few bars. I don't know if Tom would join in with the solo.
I'll try, but there might be the delay might make it.
I know. He had white horses in his white storm, all dressed in satin, waiting by the door. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. Bullets had found him. His blood ran as he cried. The money could save him, so he lay down and he died. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. Ooh, what a lucky man he was.
I don't know, in time. I'm just
Go for it, Tom. Go for it. Oh, Ed.
Lucky man.
That was beautifully played. Oh my
Cheers,
goodness
Dan.
sakes. Chills. You have a beautiful voice and you play the guitar so very well, and it speaks to me, I know. Reminds me of Greg doing that, and
It's a beautiful song.
it really opens your soul, and just I couldn't help but just close my eyes and just go off into kind of dreamland, and it's a very, very good thing. We have a lot of comments here that I didn't even notice. Let's see. Let me see. What do we have here? We have some people watching. We have Robert Shepard. Hi, Robert. And he is, let's see, Terry Schwartzwalder. And oh man, Terry, I hope I got your last name right. He says, is replying to Sandy, who said she has opened another live link because she was having trouble, I guess, with getting all of our sound or I think it was the sound. And so she opened up another link and she told people how to fix that. So let me see. Adam Fenton is watching. Robert Soul is watching. Look at this. We have Manticore all tuning in. Hi, Manticore.
Hi, Manticore.
So this is wonderful. Now there are some things that we've talked about that I think that we wanted to bring up during this interview. And everyone out there, let us know if you're having any difficulty with our audio. Please let us know, because for us over here, we're hearing everybody just fine, but that doesn't necessarily mean that so are you. So yes, just please give us a little heads up so that we can do something different. Now, how did the name Noddy's Puncture come to be? Because that's a very cool name. I really like it.
Isn't it?
I never knew
I thought of that.
You thought of that, Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, explain,
Yeah.
Tom.
Well, well, of course, Carl had a Noddy on his kick drum. We all know that, don't we?
I don't.
You do.
It was holding a big banner saying Carl Palmer. It was a present to him when he was in Atomic Rooster, and apparently it was quite rude because it had something drawn on it. And of course, Carl was making it like, you know, television appearances and stuff. So they had to airbrush the appendage out that was on. So then, of course, I think somebody bought him the skin for his birthday or something. I seem to remember the story. And then of course, with ELP, he just had that skin on, and for how long, I don't know, maybe 6 months.
Yeah, because in '71 he got the carcass on his
Carcass one, yeah.
So it was a relatively short time, really.
So I just wanted to get Noddy on the kick drum. That's all it was to do with. And I thought, well, we'll get Noddy on the kick drum, but then we can't call the band Noddy, because everyone will think we're a Slade tribute or something, you know. So I had an Enid Blyton book, because I've always been a Noddy fan anyway, and I noticed he had a little car. So I had this idea. I thought, we'll stick him in his car, because Carl's got him on his kick drum holding this banner saying Carl. I thought, we'll put Noddy in the car with a flat tire and call it Noddy's Puncture. I thought it was a stroke of genius.
Is that what you have at the end of your keyboard set?
Say again?
You have the car at the end of your keyboard?
Yeah, I've got, somebody bought me that for Christmas many years ago, yeah. It's made of sponge. It's a sponge
Very
Noddy.
awesome. It's Noddy.
Yeah. So that's how that came about, yeah. But it's been that long now, everybody knows it. So if we change the name, I didn't want to call the band, you see, I mean, there weren't that many tributes around then. I just didn't want to call the band, you know, whatever, you know, after a track of an album track or an album name. I wanted it to be different, you know? Yeah. So I just picked something to do with Carl's kick drum.
I think it's a great name. I mean, it's very different.
Gets people talking, doesn't it?
It's memorable. It's just memorable.
It certainly does get people talking, at least to say, where did that name come from?
Exactly. I know that some people have asked on our Titan site, where'd that name come from? How did it get that? And what does it mean? And so thank you for clearing that up for us. Now we all know exactly where it came from. And I know that we were not able to see some comments before. I apologize for not addressing those right away, but I do have a second system set up here, so I am able to see comments now. And so please share your questions and whatnot, because I am able to observe those right here in front of me. Moving along, Tom, let's see, your relationship with Keith is, of course, a conversation that so many of us want to know even more about. How did you and Keith, how did you meet? What brought the two of you together in the first place?
I basically went down to his house, knocked on the door and said, "Are you coming for a beer?"
You did not.
I did, but he wasn't in.
Were you promptly shown the door?
He was being best man at Jim Davidson's wedding number, whatever.
Oh no!
That was 8th wedding, wasn't
it?
Basically, what happened? There was no internet then. There were some fanzines, and we're talking 1980, just after E.L. Powell. Basically, Greg was gigging, and I went to Greg's gig in Manchester. And I went during the day, and I started chatting to the guys who were setting up and stuff. It was the Manchester University you missed. And it was there, the Gary Moore band, Greg Lake band with Gary Moore. And I was chatting to a guy, and I got friendly with this guy, and he said, "Oh, you got," he said, Keith Emerson got me this job doing lights or something. He said, "Yeah." I said, "All right." He said, "Well, we're sat in a pub in, he's a biker and I'm a biker, and we were chatting in this pub in Hailsham in Sussex." So I thought, okay, so there's a pub in Hailsham that Keith goes to. Okay, fine. And then there was also this fanzine, which I can't remember what it's called now, but you bought it and it was like photocopied, and there was a mention of a name of a pub, the Six Bells. So I thought, well, Six Bells and Hailsham. I thought, I've got two bits of information here. So basically, I decided I must follow this through. I'll just I'll try and find the guy. It must be easy to find. And at the time in Rochdale, you could go down to the library and you could get a phone book for every part of England. So I went and got a phone book for Sussex and around that area, and I looked, and I just went through the Emersons, and I sort of phoned a few of them. And
you did.
I sort of said, blah 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 blah, thinking coming down, blah 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 blah. And I actually rang his house. He was in the phone book.
You went up to his house.
Eleanor
he doesn't
answered.
know you at all.
Eleanor answered, I remember, because I just put two and two together after the event. But I basically phoned up and said to the people, "I'm thinking of coming down, are you any relation, blah, 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 blah. Do you know him, blah, blah, blah." And I think Eleanor said to me, "Oh, right, I know him." She said, "Yeah, I know him. I've heard of him." She said, she said, if you, he'll be nice to you if you're nice to him," or something like that along those lines, So, and I didn't know it was Eleanor. I just thought, I'm just ringing a few people and get some pointers, and maybe somebody knows him, But I actually rang and spoke to Eleanor. I do remember knowing that after the event.
Wow.
Yeah,
how did you feel about realizing that you were asking?
So I had his phone number. Because of that, because it was in the book, but not under Keith's name, under Eleanor's name. So I went down, and then I hired a little cottage, and I went down for a week, and there was a pub opposite the cottage called the King's Head in Hailsham. And I was on my own. I didn't know anybody, and I'd just go into the pub for a drink and for lunch. And I befriended a guy actually there who was from Manchester area, and he lived down there. He had a business. I think he conservatories and windows and stuff. And I got friendly and chatting, and he sort of said things like, "I know somebody who he was a hairdresser who used to go up there, and I think this guy I only just met him, and he used to like take a day off work and we'd jump in his car and he'd drive around thinking, I think that's it, and it was all wildly out. He was wrong, but he was helping me, you know. And my week was coming to a close, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and I used to go up to the Six Bells, you know, and just sit around and see, you know, and have a beer. So I had a bit of a holiday.
Yeah, and you hope. And
then one night I was playing pool in the King's Head, which is the pub opposite where I'd hired my cottage, and I'm chatting, and there's a chap in there who worked for the local council, who emptied all the you know, they don't have sort of sewage pipes. It's all these, you know, the council have to go around and shovel it out after, what do they call them? These tanks.
Cesspits.
Yeah.
Septic tanks.
So this chap said to me, I know him. I'll get you his address because we have to go and empty his tank. This guy was shoveling Keith's poo, you know. So basically, he got me this address, and I just made my way up there and rang the doorbell, and Keith's mum, Dorothy, answered. I remember. I think Damon was next to her, and Damon's arm was in plaster. It must have been Damon because he was a young lad, and.
Tom's muted for some reason.
Tom, I think you've accidentally muted yourself.
Yeah.
And Ed's muted as well for some reason.
Hang on, and Tom, you're.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, everybody's back. Yes.
We'd got as far as there was young lad Damon was there.
Yeah, Damon was at the door, and he was sort of like, you know, just behind his granny, and Dorothy was talking to me, and I remember his arm was in plaster. So she said he's not in. He's at Jim Davidson's wedding, and he'll be back tomorrow. I said, okay, I'll come back tomorrow then. And she said, okay, I'll tell him you called. So I came back the next evening, and I think this was a Thursday. And I'm walking between the gate and the house, and I could hear tyres behind me, so I stopped, and it was Keith in a Volvo estate. So basically, he gets out of the car, and he was behind the door, you know, what do you want, sort of thing. So I just said, well, I'm sorry, I'm Tom, and I had some cassettes with me and some photographs, you know.
You're not crazy. You're not a crazy person.
I'd taken some photographs of Greg at UMIS because we got on the coach. Remember I was telling you the lighting guy at the Greg's gig, and I had some, and he had a look, and he said, he didn't know me from Adam, and he'd never met me before. And I said, I play keyboards, and here's some tape of my original stuff with this band I'd been in, and he said, do you know where the Six Bells is? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'll see you there. I'll see you there tomorrow lunch. I'll see you there tomorrow lunchtime. So the next day, and we sat there for about 2 or 3 hours. I remember he had a streaming cold, and we ate lunch, and he drank. He said, "I'll drown me cold in this." He bought a bottle of wine and drowned his cold. He was there in his Morgan, turned up in his Morgan. I've got some photographs of us standing in the car park, you know. But we got talking, and he was saying, "Oh, this chap who used to do the Hammonds." You know, this chap called Bill Hoff had disappeared off the face of the earth, and he couldn't find him. And I said, I've got all the workshop manuals, so I said, I'll send them you. You know, I'll get them photocopied. And I photocopied them and sent them, and he started writing me letters and stuff. And I had his phone number, obviously, and then I just started thinking, well, I'm just working on something here, and I'm a bit stuck, so I think I'll just ring Keith. so I used to just ring him. And then sometimes,
why not?
more often than not, he wouldn't be in. Like Eleanor might say, "Oh, he's out jogging," or I think he used to run around the lanes, you know. So ring back later. Yeah. So it taught me through stuff, and you know, So basically that was it really. And after that, just used to go down and just visit that friend of mine I found who befriended me in the pub. I used to go and visit him regularly. And then we used to ring Keith and say, you coming for a beer? And she'd say, Eleanor would say, oh, he's in Japan, probably with the best or something, you know. More often than not, he wasn't around. But if he was, he'd always come out and meet us. He'd suggest a different pub to make it interesting, you know.
That's, you know, that's quite an amazing story. I mean, to be able to just walk up to somebody's store, somebody you really, I don't want to say idolize, but that you really respect. And to meet him would be a really big deal. And here you are, you just walk up to the door. Keith.
I told him, you know, I said, you know, I'm playing in this tribute and I've got problems with this, that, and the other. So I'll just ring you and ask you, you know. I mean, I used to ask him out, you know, the fingering for hoedown, and he used to send me. I mean, obviously we started. He got a computer and did emailing, so he'd email me the fingering, you know. And he actually even emailed me the printout for the, you know, the 24-note sequence at the end of Carnival 9, handwritten, you know.
No way.
Yeah. So,
oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, another favorite.
Then I used to go down there and we'd meet in a pub and he'd have Lee Jackson with him. So then I got friendly with Lee. And Lee calls me the ever-present Tom Zackley. Tom just turns up at places. He's ever-present.
Lee, at the gig in the Trading Boundaries that Noddy's Puncture played, and Lee Jackson guested with them and did a bit of a speech at the beginning and introduction.
Sorry.
One of the tales that he told was the first time that he met Tom. And that was Lee was at Keith's house, and there's this strange figure at the bottom of the garden at the gate trying to get in. And Lee said to Keith, "Who's that?
Let me in."
Yeah, and Keith said to Lee, "Oh, that's okay. That's my stalker."
Yeah. Well, actually, went round to Keith's once, and Aaron answered the door, and I was with a friend of mine. We'd gone down to the area, and Aaron answered the door and said, "Oh, Dad's out shopping." He said he said you'd turn up. He says come in and wait. So Keith and Ellen
went into Keith's house.
Yeah. We were there all afternoon, and then it was just before Black Moon. He had the two piano pieces close to home and Blade of Grass, and he took us to his music corner. He had these big tannoy speakers, I remember, you know, the fireplace and all the, you know, DAC player and all that, and he played the two piano pieces, and he said to me, "Which one do you reckon I should put on the album?" So I don't know, I can't remember which one I said, but he did ask me. Yeah.
I hope it was the correct one.
Yeah, so.
Oh my goodness sakes.
Oh, and then I was playing the score.
That takes a lot of guts.
I was playing the score on his piano baby grand there. I can't remember what mate. It's a 4-letter name, and he said that's a piano he said, I think he said his piano I learned on. It wasn't an upright. It was a baby grand. But I was playing the score, and he said, "Oh, you're playing it wrong." He said. I said, "Oh, right." And he said, "Just hang on a second." He disappeared, and he'd ripped a piece of sheet music out of a book, and he came back, and he said, "I'll write it on." He said, "You don't mind me writing it on the back of this?" Was it what was that track they played with the best? Was it a John Entwistle track? Is it a Who track? Was it
Boris Spider?
Was it Boris the Spider, or was it something called Too Late? Was it Too Late the Hero? I'll have to go and dig it out. But he said to me, "You don't mind on the back of this?" I said, No, carry on. So he just basically wrote out the intro to the score there and then for me on the piano, and he was like playing it, and so he wrote it out. So he did things like that for me, you know. Really nice.
It's incredible. That's really an incredible story. It really is. Because I don't know a whole lot of people that would say, gee, I'm in front of Carl Palmer's house. I'd like to meet him. Let me just go ring the doorbell.
And of course, Noddy's Puncture started playing because I got friendly with the Six Bells landlord then. And he used to say, oh, come down and play. So it was a case of like, well, we need to do 2 nights to make it worth the trip because it's a long way and you have to bring all the gear and we have to stay somewhere. So we started, because they didn't pay that much. People wanted to play at their place, you know, so they didn't pay a lot of money. And then Aaron started coming seeing us. So then Eleanor came to see us and Lee Jackson used to come and see us. And Aaron was in bands and all these bands used to come and see us. All these band members. So we sort of, like, over the years, just got, you know, I got friendly with Aaron. And I think it was 94. We were playing at the Six Bells and Aaron had been there and his bandmates were there. And we were packing away and Aaron said, it's an open house if you want to come. We're having a party. He said, Mum and Dad are away. So, basically, we packed the van. We packed the van and everyone went home and I went up the lane and I parked outside Stone Hill and I knocked on the door and I went in and they were all having a drink in the kitchen. And Aaron said, and it was when they were just about to get rid of the place, to move. And Aaron just took me around every room in the house and showed me every room, you know, upstairs in the attic. There was a pool table and he took me in the barn and there's 2 pianos and I played stuff, you know, and there was a jacket and I tried the jacket on and it was like too tight, but I still carried on playing. And then there was a Goff Hammond, I remember this, I've still got it, a Goff Hammond organ, like a shiny jacket. And Aaron said, oh, you can have that. So I took it. It was on top of the piano in the barn. So I took it and I came home and all that. And I thought, oh, damn. So I rang up and I spoke to Keith and I said, look, I said, I've just been down there gigging and I said, and we've been in, you know, Aaron invited us in. I said, he's given me this jacket and I thought, I just took it because I was like, wow. I said, it's your jacket. I said you want it? I'll give it you back. I'll give it you back because I think Aaron didn't ask you. I think Aaron just gave it me. And he said, nah, you can keep it. So, oh my God. So I've still got it, a Goff Hammond organ jacket. Yeah.
I would have that thing in glass or on my body every single day.
Anyway, do you want to talk to somebody else now?
Yeah. Frank, let's see now. There were some things that we talked about here. Now I have to go back to my other sheet here. You have a list of songs that you do, and some of those songs I understand are songs that Noddy Puncture plays that either have never been performed by ELP or has only been performed a few times. Do you want to talk a little bit about what those songs are?
Sure. We play trilogies, one track that ELP probably only played 3 or 4 times maybe, because back in the early 70s, 72 when they were doing it, they couldn't replicate all the various sounds. But today with technology, we're able to recreate that sound. And I mean, Ed's a big part of that and he can probably explain it better, but there's a section in it where it's in a 5/4 section, and Ed plays that riff with his feet while Tom's playing the solo on top. So whether or not they didn't have that technology back there, or whether Greg wasn't able to do it, thankfully Ed can.
It was backing tapes, Frank. I think probably for that to kick in at the right point, Carl probably had to listen to a click.
Yeah.
But the tapes used to chew up or stop on things, right, so a bit of a disaster.
Yeah. So it was a disaster, but Ed can replicate that with the bass pedals, so we're able to perform that one. Living Sin's another one. I don't know why ELP didn't play that one live anyway. I think it was just it's a song that never came on their radar, perhaps to replicate live, but we certainly do that one, which we do enjoy doing. and then we played Toccata, which ELP only played on one tour, the Brain and Salad Surgery 73-74 tour, and we play that, and we replicate that. I mean, maybe Tom can demonstrate some of the sounds.
Actually, that is a good demo for the Moog, yeah.
Yeah, and we create Carl's percussion solo in there, so do the timps, the tubular bells.
Nice.
And then there's a synth solo where my drums are triggered there's some triggers installed on my on various drums. So I've got 2 on the rotor toms, or the higher pitched toms. I've got 1 on the bass drum, a trigger on one of the floor toms, and then I've got a pad next to me which triggers the 14 note sequencer. So I haven't got the drums set up for that because Tom's got the drums down there, but the sound.
Yeah, I kind of built all that, didn't I, Frank?
Yeah.
Sort of, what we've got is a Roland drum pad, which you can actually program sounds into, but you can actually convert each pad to a MIDI trigger, which then my Alesis keyboards, I can burn samples to cards. So I've got. This is what.
Can you demonstrate, Tom, a little bit about that? I can
demonstrate, but obviously every time I hit a note, that would be Frank hitting a certain pad, because I've actually built these triggers. So the triggers go onto certain pads. So you've got things like.
Oh, that's it.
So when I play a drum, those sounds, which are similar to the sounds that Carl got from his. The
samples with the samples from Carl's.
Yeah.
Well, that one is anyway. I'm not going to tell you how we got it.
Yeah, I would.
And then I think, as I said, we alluded to earlier, we try and approach the tracks and listen to the live versions. And from a drummer's point of view, I think Carl's drumming is like an extension of his personality. He's a very, very energetic, lively, kind of hyper kind of individual. And I've known him. I've known him for years. Known him very, very well. Spent awful lot of time with him. So I know what he's like as a character. And I think that comes out in his drumming. You know, his drumming is always on the edge. It's kind of fast and it's pushing all the time. And I think from a drummer's point of view, what I try and do is kind of imagine or get into his head how he approaches the songs. And I mean, I was listening to a bootleg the other day, Madison Square Garden, one of the 3 gigs they did in '77, and I listened to Carnival 9, Impression 1, Part 2, and it was so fast, as fast as I've ever heard it. And on that night, Carl must have been drinking loads of coffee or something. Because I remember John Wetton famously said that Carl makes coffee nervous, and he raced away with it. And that's the thing with Carl's drumming. It's not a steady in the pocket metronomic kind of style of drumming. He's very organic, and he goes with how he's almost feeling on the night. And sometimes he follows Keith, and they're both, kind of really pushing it. And that's what, again, we have been criticised for sometimes playing the pieces too fast. But that's because we're trying to get in the heads of well, I am anyway, in the head of Carl, and they're really pushing. And you've only got to listen to some of these bootlegs, and they really are flying with the tempos. And that was the exciting thing about their live performances. They weren't sterile and metronomic and kind of plodding along. They were really, really pushing. And that's what we try as best we can to emulate the live feel, rather than trying to copy the studio versions. And playing them to something like a click track, because I don't think ELP pieces would work with a click track. They're more organic, and they breathe and they push. And depending on the night, some are taken a little bit faster than if you saw them 3 successive nights, you'd see them played potentially at 3 different tempos, because it's an extension of how they are feeling. That's what we try and recreate, I think.
Can I jump in there?
Go on then, Tommy.
Yeah.
You're in.
You know what Frank was saying. I mean, at the moment we're working on third impression, which I'm just learning. But I think Ed suggested we do this one, and I said okay. But if we do it, I said I want to do it in the live key, which ELP did it, because obviously they transposed it, didn't they, down? And I said, and I want to do the Cal Jam version, so I don't want to do the organ solo, which everybody knows off the, you know, I mean, ELP, Keith did that organ solo. I mean, the Cal Jam one, just a totally different organ solo. So basically, that's the way I've learned it, and I've been practicing it. And it's same with Pirates as well. You know, people sort of, years ago I saw, I can't remember who did it now, but, you know, emulating the orchestral and stuff. I just wanted to emulate the GX1. So I did that, approached it that way with Pirates as well. Just
Pirates alone, if you don't mind my jumping in.
I could demo those sounds for you if you want, the GX1 sounds.
Oh, yes, please.
But before that, Frank was talking about Toccata, and I wanted to.
Yes.
I wanted to show you that because there's a thing about there's lots of these little switches that I've built myself, which come into play.
Yeah.
Now, why is that not working? Oh, I know why. See, there's little switches everywhere because I don't have presets, and I tend to forget. There's one there, and you do hold down, and that one's down, and it should be up for the next one. It's happened live as well. But then there's this one oscillator goes down, so go from there. So and there's a delay. And then the other one goes up to, so the two together. And then of course you give it a little bit of modulation. And then of course you want that ring modulation. So I've built a little circuit with a switch here. So you go. Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah. Things like that.
Just like
all these little boxes like I've built with switches everywhere. And you've got to remember on the gig, right? That one's on, that one's off, that one's on, and that's all for different numbers. It's just like so much.
That's crazy. I don't know how, Tom, you keep it up because
I don't know.
I noticed that you're constantly switching gears and changing knobs, and you're back on the keys and you're kind of going back and forth.
For Toccata, you get rid of that. You see, you get rid of that sort of you get rid of the you know, the actual. You get rid of that and you get the filtering. You get the filtering to play.
Oh my.
And later on, you get rid of it and you go. Yeah.
There's a lot. Hey, great job on that, Tom. You know, Toccata was the very first prog song that I ever was that my boyfriend at the time played for me. I had no idea what prog was. I had no idea about who ELP was. So you said, well, I'll play you this. And Toccata was my introduction.
You got this as well, you know. You got this thing as well. I'll give you a demo of that, yeah?
Yeah.
Basically, the ribbon controller.
Have you got the pyros in it, Tom?
What Keith did was he got a drone going. So you get an oscillator and you take it off the keyboard, off the ribbon controller. So you got a. So I'm actually triggering the Moog off here now. When I touch the ribbon. But then it'll just play whichever note you last hit. So that's a drone going, and you pick a middle note, and then you actually play another oscillator with.
Yeah.
And then to do the machine gun thing, I didn't want to ruin mine, so I put screwed a little wire there. And if you lick your finger, and you.
Ah, very nice. Very, very nice.
See? Simple.
Oh, yes. I'm just amazed at everything that all three of you do. Like, for instance, Frank, I was going to ask you something regarding the speed that you would watch Carl play at. And the one question that came to my mind that you'll be able to answer, I think, is I had heard that Keith and Carl, or Keith would start to challenge Carl on how fast Carl could play. And Keith would sometimes play a little faster than, say, they practiced or what have you. And then it was this kind of game thing of Carl watching Keith and watching for that moment when he plays, and it was like a contest to keep up. Is that true, or is that just a story?
There could be elements of that. I mean, if you listen to the Welcome Back album, the live album, I mean, Keith dictates, particularly in Hoedown, he'll dictate the tempo with the swoop, which I know Tom dictates the tempo of the track with the swoop at the beginning. And also, if you listen to Carcass, they don't have the build-up, the voices. Keith just counts it in 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Carl's got to go with that, you know. So, you know, they did take the tempos at an incredible pace. But then, if you watch in the 90s, 92 onwards, they kind of laid it back a little bit and let the music breathe a bit more. But I think there was definitely in the 70s. I'm not sure they were trying to outcompete each other. I think they were just really trying to impress the watchers, the audience, you know, how great they were and how fast they could play.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was more about, you know, getting people's jaws to drop, really, looking at the performance levels. I mean, some of these gigs were 2.5, maybe approaching 3 hours long, and the stamina they had was incredible, superhuman almost.
I don't know how they were able.
The first time I saw them, the first time I saw Emerson and Palmer live was on the Black Moon tour when my Newcastle, and I noticed that with the advent of MIDI and how you can control things off a single keyboard, that Keith introduced a lot more orchestration into his pieces. So they were playing things like Pitches and Exhibition, but it was more of the traditional arrangement to that. It wasn't the one at the City Hall, which was in 71, 72, whatever. It was far more textured and lots more sound, orchestral sounds, and a different sort of arrangement to it. And also, it was like what Frank said, it was the tempos were a little bit more laid back and more measured. It wasn't as frantic as it used to be when they first started.
Also, Ed, on the Black Moon tour, Keith had Will Alexander off stage changing all the patches for him.
Mm.
So
Really?
yeah. He had, setting all the patches up and stuff. So you need, with all that stuff, with all them buttons and that, you have a guy at the side of the stage, and maybe even between a number has to press a button and on these MIDI switches or whatever, and it all changes. And Keith's relying on this guy to the side of him to change all the patches with all the,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, why not? I mean, anything that helps, because Keith has got his hands full, you might say.
But in the early 70s, he had a box on the Hammond, and he had buttons to change the presets of the modular. So he did that himself in the 70s. You can see him on Carl Jam video, actually, on the Third Impression, which I'm watching that video a lot now because I'm learning it. And you can see him, in certain pieces, reaches up and reaches down and just presses a button and, the Moog's reset. Yeah.
That, it's interesting because people don't think about what goes on behind the scenes. What help they're getting, who's watching what. Who's keeping an eye on Carl's equipment, and there's got to be a whole crew of people that are just there to support and to be ready to say change guitar to bass, or like Tom. I'm sure that you've had Dave here helping. Is that right too?
Helping. How do you mean?
Kind of, Dave, you are for Noddy's Puncture, the sound engineer.
Yeah.
Yes, so basically I drive the mixing desk. These guys, they're not playing Mustang Sally in the local pub. You get different sounds coming at you at different levels from all directions. So it's an exciting thing to behold.
There's a lot going on, and Dave has to stay on top of it all just as much as we do, because if Frank's hitting some Tubular Bells sounds on the pad, Dave has to know that's coming up and it has to be heard. It's dead easy to sort of,
Sure.
It might only come up once and it has to be heard, and the moment's gone. If you've missed it, you've missed it.
So for that sound,
and
I have to be riding the fader.
A good thing.
No.
I think, Dave, you get in a little bit of trouble if you miss one.
But apart from that, Dave also helps me pack the gear into the trailers and get the gear upstairs, and and then unpack it the gig.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Dave, that's got it. How do you do that? What's your process for breaking down the equipment for Tom and getting that loaded?
Tom has a great deal of ingenuity about how everything packs away within itself. The ribbon controller lives within the top cabinet on the Moog for traveling around. Yeah, that goes inside the back. He's made a special compartment in the flight case for the modular that the keyboard sits inside of. Every single little bit, it's all custom gear. It's not off the shelf. It's all been modified, and obviously, in packing up that gear, then,
this is why when people say, "Can you come to America?" I'll have to take. I can't just. Oh, we'll get you a modular. You couldn't do it. Somebody gave me a modular in America. I couldn't do what I do with this because it's custom.
Well, we gotta do like a fundraiser or something where we all donate towards getting you guys out here to America, do some stuff back east, do some stuff Midwest, and come out to the West Coast and do some stuff there. Because I know I am just dying to see you guys in person. Because Tom, I understand that you perform just as Keith did when he performed, as far as everything from the knives to playing backwards to the whole bit. And
I
unless I'm
try.
wrong.
I do try, but it's not as easy as it used to be.
Well, time will do that.
Well, I was much more sprightly before my motorcycle accident, so I used to like just jump off the top of the hammock. I can't do that now. But
we have tentatively been discussing the idea of doing something and maybe streaming it, so that the people in America can see us live. And it's only in the initial discussions at the moment. I know it's something that Ed was sort of brought it up, I think, initially. Is that right, Ed? You just did one with your Bowie band, didn't you? The idea of streaming it.
Yeah, it just seems maybe a way to get our sound heard by fans in America and other parts of the world, because the logistics of getting something like this across the Atlantic is just horrendously
It's just too much.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the actual weight of the equipment and what have you. You would have to have replicas abroad, which, as Tom said, you can't replicate what he's actually created himself.
No,
So
you
we just thought that maybe a live stream performance is the way forward. I mean, we've been in lockdown for months now, and lots of bands are doing this, doing the live stream performance, and I just thought that maybe it's a way to let the people in other countries see the band live, you know. But we'll see how it goes.
I'm sure there's a lot of us that would love to see.
I've had a thought on that. And we've not actually discussed it as a band. So this is the first time the guys are hearing that. This live streaming of a gig is a good idea, but obviously you need to get together to do the gig.
Yeah, and I understand that you guys are not quite next door to each other.
No, we're not. We're hundreds of miles
Explain
apart.
how you guys do this. How do you guys do your rehearsals? And
well, we basically have a program which we can all link up to, and I've got a central server which I'm hiring, which we log into, and basically we get just a few. I think I'm down to about 34 milliseconds delay. Did you see the pictures at an exhibition we did recently?
Yes.
Yeah. Now
beautifully done.
Beautifully
done. I was going to talk to you about that a little bit.
That was Ed's idea to do something, and basically I analysed what other people do, and what other people do is when they do collaborating, they get a track recorded and get it recorded as well as they can. And then basically video themselves playing along to it, or maybe miming or whatever, I don't know. Sync it all up, and then that's the collaboration. That's the video. And I said, well, for a start, what we'd have to do is either record the bits ourselves. And I mean, as far as recording, I'm still on reel-to-reel 1/4-inch tape and an old Atari ST for sequencing. So I don't do this computer recording. I know Frank doesn't. So our only option would be to go into a studio. Well, with the lockdown, we couldn't even do that. So I had the idea. I said, guys, why don't we just video ourselves as we're doing this online rehearsing? I said, I'll just record my headphone feed. We'll see what it's like. There's the odd glitch and pop and fart, but if it's all right. So we just did it. One night we spent a few hours and went through stuff a few times, and then I synced it all up. And I think rather than do a gig like a performance, this is my idea, and we've got to discuss it yet. But we would basically need to meet up. Everybody comes to wherever. We have to hire a place. Then we need a camera crew, and then of course mixing it for Dave. It would be like when you're playing in a hall, you're hearing the PA. Well, if you're going to stream it, everything needs to be mic'd. It'd be a mixing nightmare, really. I'm just thinking, why don't we do what we did before and link Zoom up with our rehearsals, we could actually sort of say to people, look, we're rehearsing and we'll be going through Pirates 3 times, or people don't like Pirates sometimes. They say, oh, I preferred ELP Keith with the Hammond and the Moog. Well, then they don't have to tune in that week, you know. They can wait till we do.
Yeah.
But we could have people...
Pirates is quite a number to even learn how to sing. Ed, the changes in the tempo is just unbelievable. You try to learn how to sing that song, and that is not easy. And it's not easy to play for Tom and for Ed and for Frank. It's a difficult song. It's a beautiful song. Ed, I think you were talking about how it's really a story that you have to learn.
Yeah, it's the lyrics are huge. I mean, it takes a long time to actually learn the lyrics without learning to pitch and sing the lyrics, and then having to put that to Greg Lake's bass lines. It is quite a challenge. It really is. It's sort of like doing that.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I mean, I've been actually trying to memorize the lyrics, and because I love certain parts, you know, where Greg changes his tempo to go very, very fast. Bones and Beaches, and you know, so on.
Landlord Wine.
Can I just say that Ed doesn't have an auto cue at all, so the lyrics to not only parts but the entire repertoire is in his head. So fair dues.
I mean, geez, complicated enough, and yet Ed, you got it right up here.
That's what you got to do. You got to learn things. It's no good if you try to have cue cards and read the lyrics in front of you. It would be instantly noticeable, and people would see that, and you would not be able to perform. It needs to be in there. It needs to sort of be automatically played, and
yes.
You need to. It's not just playing. It's not just singing. It's actually performing as well. And
yes.
entertaining people who are watching the band.
And I think it goes back to what Ed was saying earlier, that because we've listened to the music for years and years and years, it's just in there. And I'm sure that's the same for all of us in terms of learning and remembering the pieces. It's just something that's just always will be in there.
I think it's also describes the quality of your songs that you do play, that because you have them so memorized, and you've obviously been fans of their music and each one of the members themselves, that you just it comes out in the performance, in the videos that I have seen. I'm really impressed with the quality of each one of you. You definitely have my hats off to you, all of you, for taking that time to memorize those things, and so that they do look like the true performance, and you're not looking at as just like cue cards and things like that. And Tom, you've got to have a real challenge too there with Pirates and with pictures. All of you, I don't know how you do it.
Well, you got to play it. You got to. If I don't play Pirates for a couple of weeks, and I try, I'll just forget. With Pirates, for me, I could demonstrate it for you, because
please.
I've set up sounds, and I have to do little switches to get a different sound at a moment's notice, or during a certain piece while I'm playing with my left hand, I have to pull the. And I've done things like the modulation wheel on the synthesizer. I've programmed the module it's controlling to become a fader between two patches. Or if I put it central, I can get the, it's. Let me just switch over to it, because I'll just show you. I mean, this. Am I prepared for this now? I don't know whether I've... Let's just see whether this... That's basically the, you know, the... And then you've got this other keyboard here, which is going...
Yeah.
And then if you don't change your... So it happened live, actually. If you don't change your patches... There we go. So if I've got that sound... And I can go... And then you got that. And there's different switches. There's actually on the lower keyboard, there's 2 buttons. It's an Ensoniq, and you can actually change mute and unmute oscillators, but they're momentary switches, so you have to keep your fingers on them. Of course, I can't do that, so I've actually took the keyboard apart and I've put a toggle switch across them, so I can actually make it permanent. So it, you know,
very nice.
Yeah. So. And then, of course, I've had to modify this keyboard to get this aftertouch.
Oh man, that's great. Pirates is a really great number.
So it's quite quite convoluted. So like I say, if I don't play it for a week or 2, I come back to it and I'm just messing up because it's not only the playing, it's like all the switches and it's muscle memory, and you've got to just keep on top of it.
Yes,
that's the only way you can do it. So yeah.
Now, has Keith taught you or worked with you on your keyboards and ways to play or ways to program things?
No, not to program things. He's helped me out with different bits when I've asked him. I've asked him technical stuff about the Moog, and he's forwarded my email to people who he worked with and said, Tom's got this question, can you answer it? So then I'll get a reply from Keith Weschler or, you know, somebody. I'd send the question to Keith, and then he'd send it to somebody else and say, can you answer this for Tom?
That's great. That's so great. You got a team there. And let's see. It seems to me that, was there another question that I had on hand here? We talked about the sounds of Hoedown, and you know, I want to thank each and every one of you for your demonstrations, taking the time to play for us. It's a real treat. And Ed, like I said earlier, you have a spectacular voice and you play Lucky Man beautifully. And it only makes me hungry to want more. You know, it's like I'm ready to buy my plane ticket and get on over there. Now,
well,
you know, there is
hopefully we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know where it's going to go with COVID-19 and restrictions, audience restrictions, and where live music's going to go. So we'll have to wait until next year maybe to see how it goes. But I think we will do a convention next year, and also we have a rescheduled Isle of Wight gig, which is reenacting the 1970 Isle of Wight show.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you guys. I was going to specifically ask Tom about that. I saw an announcement. You know, sad, but
The Isle of Wight,
realistic.
Isle of Wight organisers decided to finally admit that it's not going to happen this year, and just postpone it by a year. And I was talking to because obviously David and Jason Woodford were coming over to do a sort of a test. That was one of the attractions, like a test run of the documentary, which they would have ready for then. And I was speaking to David, and he said he sort of planted the seed of like, well, why don't we, if you delayed it and did it around the same time as the Isle of Wight, then people who want to go to the Isle of Wight and the convention can actually come over, and if it's quite close, they can stay over, you know, if it's a week or two.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely. I was excited when I read that because I wanted to go to both, but they were so far apart from each other. I didn't like having to pick one over the other because both are...
But the convention is really quite good. I mean, Robert Berry was talking about coming over, but then he didn't know, see what he's doing near the time, trying to coordinate stuff. But I've got in touch with Pete Sinfield. I've got in touch with people who used to work for, with ELP on the PA. Well, one guy who worked for IES, the PA company. He also was Carl's drum roadie at some point. And he helped design the stainless steel kit. I've tracked down a lot of people, and it'd be good to have. And we've got loads of stuff, loads of ideas, basing it on the one 25 years ago, but making it even bigger and better. But the place I found has only got 250 places, so if we don't sell the 250 seats, then it's going to cost a fortune to actually put on.
So we need to make sure that we all give our darndest to get over there and get our tickets so that we can make sure that this all comes together.
But here's one for you. Going back to Dave. Dave had a suggestion recently, which I don't know if I should. We want to be the first to do things, you see, because
no, Dave.
It could be done at the convention, couldn't it, Tom?
Well, it could be done. Could be done regularly elsewhere, but
yes,
because we're learning third impression.
What else did you do?
I'm
only just learning. I'm only just learning this, so.
Load your program. I am yourself. Load your.
Yeah?
The robot voice.
Yeah.
Load your program. I am yourself.
So Dave had this idea. He said, when we do the third impression, he said he'd like to do a gig in quad, like ELP did with 4.
Oh, nice.
So it's down to me to build stuff again. I'm going to do it. We're going to do a quad PA and have the sequence going round. So yeah, that.
Tom, you build it and I'll carry it.
Yeah. Yeah, but we decided we're going to do a quad. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to sound so good. Oh, that's going to sound wonderful.
My problem is I can't talk and play. So if I'm playing, I can't speak. So it throws me.
I would think not. I don't know how anybody does that. You sit there and talk and play at the same time. I mean, keyboards, you have your feet going. You've got, your left and right hands going in different directions, and you're thinking about the buttons you have to push. And I don't know.
If you listen to some bootlegs of Keith going off on one in solos, he sometimes does this kind of thing. Yeah. Sometimes he gets the Morse code going with the fixed filter bank with the wind.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are going to sound great.
Things like that, little bits of, you know, in the middle of his solos, he used to just go into something, you know, different noises.
Yeah.
Little things
Well,
like
Keith's
that.
really.
And of course, you know, when Ed's singing in Tarkus and he's doing, you know, Confusion will be my epitaph, yeah? And I do the old, Keith did that as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Little things like that.
I can recognize a lot of those sounds. Yeah.
It's the attention to detail that's the thing, isn't it?
It really
Little
is.
nuances, yeah.
Things that you don't think about, you know, when you think about the whole song, but when you break it down, like what Tom's doing, it's recognizable.
And there's also, you know, the end of Carnival 9 First Impression, when there's that big glide up.
Yes.
Yeah? You know, the old...
I'm waiting, you know, I'm waiting for you to get to Carnival 9 and do a little, you know.
You know? Now, a lot of people don't know this, but that glide on the modular is logarithmic. It's exponential, whereas a mini Moog is linear. So what happens with the modular Moog is you hit a note at the bottom and you hit a note at the top, and the note rushes up to the top, and as it gets nearer the top, it starts slowing down. Yeah? Now, that's what you need at the end of Carnival 9. A mini Moog linear portamento won't cut it. Yeah?
I love it. Are you going to play for...
Keith used to do is put it through the reverb.
Wow.
Things like that, yeah?
Yeah. Now I'm waiting to hear, you know, that part of Carnival 9. I think we talked about, I think it was either
I've just done it. Load your
program. I know, but
I
mean, that part just before Greg starts to sing. Yeah. That's the one. That's it. All you're doing is you're just pushing down on one key to make that sound repeat itself.
Yeah, I have a foot pedal. And it carries on until I take my foot off.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite sounds. You know, and it's a Carnival 9, and
it's
just
called
that.
the sample and hold. Sample and hold. Oh, in fact, speaking of that now, at the end of pictures, you know, we do pictures, there's a cracking effect where you've got I'll get the mini moog on the sample and hold, and then I can go. It's not doing it at the moment. Needs setting, but it's not. Anyway, yeah, it's what I do is I get that doing the sample and hold. For some reason, it's not doing it, and I'm probably just getting a bit. Weird. Anyway, yeah, what I do is I mix the two. So I've got the modular, and the modular's going. I get the two going together. And Keith did that a lot with the two one's on sample and hold and one isn't, and there's a glide, and he mixes the two together. Yeah. I think you hear that on the end of the pictures at a Cal Jam. It has a big glide up.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. Pictures is a.
It doesn't always work because your switches might be in the wrong position or something, but yeah.
Well, that's okay.
All these things need checking beforehand, you see, and I didn't check that one.
Well, that's okay. We'll give you a break on that one.
It'll work next time, Tom. Don't worry.
Probably. All these things need running through. I've done that before. Yeah. I've done it on a gig, and I've forgotten to just check something, and then you come to that part in the set, and then it doesn't work.
What can you do? I mean, stuff happens.
Yeah.
These are the bits where Ed improvises in between numbers live and tells an amusing tale, whilst Tom tweaks the sounds out of the Moog until he gets the nod, and then off they go again.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you got to keep it going.
There's nothing. I remember when I first got the modular and the hoedown sound, and there was just one switch, and it was, and I was overlooking it, and that thing in front of the audience when they're all waiting, and it felt like 10, 20 minutes. It must have been about a minute or two. It's just a horrible feeling when it doesn't work,
Yeah.
That's presets. Presets for you. No presets here.
Yeah, no presets here, no.
No presets here.
All has to be dialed in manually just before you go. Yeah.
You must have, how long does it take you to set everything up prior to a show?
Good few hours.
I would think. Like a whole day?
Well, if we do one of our own gigs where I'm taking my PA system, obviously it needs a full day. If it's a venue where they have their own PA, you just got to get this lot, but it still, needs setting up, and everything needs checking. I mean, I could do with like a pilot's checklist, a pre-flight checklist.
Yeah.
Check the Takata pitch. Check that thing. That just didn't work now. Because it could be could be a cable I've forgotten to put in.
You never know, right? I'm sure Dave gets very busy too with a lot of that. Probably between all three of you. Dave, that's got to be complicated for you too, taking care of the sound and helping out with little technical things here and there between Frank and making sure his drum kit is perfectly tuned and in the exact place that Frank needs everything to be. And
Fortunately, Frank can tune his own drum kit because I would be completely lost on that one.
no.
But the job, seriously, the job is looking out for what could possibly go wrong, what people need, if they can hear themselves, if there's anything that can be done.
Are there any cables in the way of the revolving rostrum? Yeah.
Yeah. Looking ahead for how one can support, really. It's a fast-moving feast.
I remember one gig when I don't know if you're in charge of pyrotechnics, but I think one gig the pyrotechnic went off and it went all over Ed, and I think it went all over.
No. What happened there, Frank, was Ed's got a fan to keep cool. And the pyrotechnic went off, and it was an old pyrotechnic, which was a bit out of date because I use out of date ones. I don't eat out of date food, but I use out of date pyrotechnics. You know, the use by date had gone. So what happens is like they sort of burn a bit blacker, and there was like soot, and the fan caught the soot, and Ed was sweating, and the soot just hit him on the head, and he had all these black marks all over him.
Now that must have been quite a surprise, huh, Ed?
Yeah, it looked a bit strange, looked a bit odd.
One more for the book. I'll bet you that frightened the daylights out of you when that happened.
Yeah. Frightened a lot of people.
Keep on going.
Yeah, we will do, Dan. Thanks very much.
Well, I don't know if anyone has anything more they would like to talk about that we haven't covered that I missed.
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I think we've done a lot. We've talked a lot. We've explained a lot. We've done a lot of demonstrations, and I think people have got quite an insight into how Noddy's Puncture works now. So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do.
I know. There was a lot.
I've got this just to let people know that the CD with Keith Emerson on is still available.
Oh, I didn't know you had that.
Yeah. I just thought I'd throw that one in.
Now, do you guys have T-shirts that you sell?
Not really, no. We've not had any made.
I think you should.
We'll look into it.
I think you should. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We did have some T-shirts, some really good ones made by Mark and Andrea Pettit, if my memory serves me correct, friends of ours who come to our gigs. They made some really good T-shirts, so maybe we ought to get some made and caps and stuff.
I think so. I mean, and let us know when you've got some things available on the merch site, and this way, all of us everywhere can walk around with Noddy's Puncture on our backs. But,
on the front.
I know I'd be wearing mine proudly. I think that would be a great idea. That'd be great. You guys need to do that. You really should, because there's a lot of people that would love to have one. But now, Tom, is there anything that we left out with you that you haven't covered yet that you feel that you want to still talk about?
I think we covered everything, really.
Yeah, I think,
except your Moog shirt. Your Moog shirt.
I've done a lot of demoing the Moog and stuff, so yeah, I think.
And your shirt, I love your shirt. Look at the gold on that, and your Moog. Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. It says it all. And let's see. And Frank, anything we missed?
No, I think, as Ed said, we've given hopefully everyone an insight into who we are, what we're about, how we go about things. I mean, if there is something we've missed, we can keep it back for the next time, maybe. So we don't want to give it all away in one go. So
I think that's a great idea, because we definitely have to do this again. And in closing, I want to say on behalf of the Emerson, Lake and Palmer Titans of Prague site, all the members that were anxious to view this interview, to learn about Noddy's Puncture and to gain more information as to how you all work together. We all are humbly thanking you for taking this time for us, and we appreciate this, and we do hope that we can get you back in and talk some more about upcoming stuff.
Dyanne, thank you for arranging this interview as well, because obviously it's quite a challenge to pull something like this together. So well done, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dave, I want to thank you especially for being our special guest today as well. This was a real treat. And Tom and Frank and Ed, just your playing for us is just giving me chills. I just know that everyone appreciated that. That was like a little surprise that turned out to be really, really great, really great. So
Thanks.
I want
Thanks very much, Dad. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dyanne.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dyanne.
Thank you, truly. And we will talk again. And this was Backstage Pass. And we will see you hopefully soon. And take care. And we'll say so long.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.